This is an In the Light vlog where I sit here in the light and hopefully bring some light to uh, life issues from the scriptures. And this is a unusual one because I want to make it first and foremost for my family, my daughters, my wife, other family members who have been involved in something in the last couple weeks. And I'm not feeling well, so I'm not. I do feel bad about the mistake I made that I'm going to talk about, but I just want to do it before any further delay. So please forgive me if I cough and forgive my voice. But yeah, I made a mistake as a parent, and I've been just trying to think how should I address this. And so I came up with this idea. I didn't want to address it while it was going on and put a big wet blanket on top of what my daughter was doing and others were enjoying. But in my conscience, I have to say something about it. So, and I realize that people in my family even will not agree, I'm sure, with what I say. But I have to do it because God is leading me to do that. And I have to live by my conscience. Like Luther said, it's not safe or right to go against your conscience. So I need to express some personal repentance and ask for forgiveness from my family. But also what I share will hopefully be helpful to others of you who might watch this. You'll learn about this particular musical play that I talk about for yourself, whether you should be involved in it in your family. And then also, hopefully, there'll be some principles when I speak more generally that might be helpful to you as well. But I'll try to say the most important things early on and then expand into more details as I go, because I know whoever might not watch the whole thing. So I'm going to share a specific example of a failure, summarize it, and then I'm going to talk about some more general regrets that have to do with entertainment and the popular arts in our family. So the specific example is that I allowed my 14-year-old daughter to be in a musical called Children of Eden over the last couple months practices and then a weekend of performances. The way it came about was I was away and my wife was trying to find theater stuff for my daughter to do because she wanted to do that. And she found this place that was doing this play, Children of Eden, and my wife was excited about it. She talked to the lady who runs the whole thing and was directing the play. And I think the lady claims to be a Christian, if I remember correctly. And so my wife was excited to see that instead of some of the extreme excesses of immorality that are often depicted and promoted in some of these youth theaters, even in the area. So this seemed to be more tame, more conservative, whatever. And my wife was excited about it, and she basically committed to our daughter being involved before I really, had a chance to look at it that much. And but I did do some research just to make sure. I thought, I got to make sure that this is okay. And so I did a little bit of research, and I realized that there's a depiction of God. He's called the Father all throughout the play, which of course breaks the second commandment. God says, "Do not make an image of me." And then I knew the ending of the play was very insidious because basically God realizes he made mistakes and he lets people just go and decide their own destiny, and that's they go make their new Eden on their own. So very humanistic, free will in the worst sense of the word message there at the end. I realized that. I knew the writers were not Christians, but that's kind of as far as I went. So knowing that there were some things wrong with it, I felt pressure because there had already been kind of a commitment that my daughter would be involved in it. And so I went back and forth on it, and everybody was upset at the idea of her not continuing. And so what I did was I let her make the decision. I figured, okay, she's 14, she's got to make some decisions for herself. So I decided to let her make the decision. Now, where I went wrong, and then of course she decided to do the play. Where I went wrong, though, in this is I didn't realize the significance of being involved in something like this. How immersive it is, how much time it takes, then also how much the family would be involved in it. So our 11-year-old daughter learned everything in the play and learned all the songs and the words and everything. So she was totally immersed in it too. In fact, just a minute ago, they were out there singing the lyrics. You might actually hear them in the background. They were singing the lyrics of the songs from the play now a week later. So they just learned, it became immersed in this. The family, of course, all went to see the play. So in other words, it wasn't just her, just the 14-year-old daughter. The whole family participated extensively in this play. Because of that, I should have had the courage to be unpopular, etc., instead of avoiding the decision. I kind of, let her make the decision, but I should have been willing to stand up and be strong and say, no, this is not something our family should be involved in. Again, I didn't realize just how immersive it was going to be for the whole family and how many family members and friends were going to go watch the thing, and that the 11-year-old was going to be singing the songs over and over again and so forth. And I should have read the whole script. That's where I went wrong too. I was lazy or too busy or whatever, and I didn't read the whole script, because if I had read the whole script, I would have realized what I realized when I went and saw the play, that almost everything that these unbelieving writers added to the biblical story, it's based, loosely on Genesis 1 through 11. They added, more than half of the stuff in the play they added to the Bible, or just outright changed things that it says in the Bible. And almost everything they added to or changed from the biblical account makes the opposite point from what God intended to say. I mean, the opposite from what God intended to say in the scriptures. So examples, not only the second commandment, where it clearly breaks the second commandment by depicting God as a human figure in the play, but the father is depicted as flawed and unjust, and he's actually really the villain of the piece. I mean, it's to be as tolerant as I possibly could say. He's at least naive and unwise, but he's really the villain of the piece. They have to overcome God and exercise their free will, especially their free love, as I'll get to. Because I'll mention it now. This is evidenced by how at the end, Japheth, the son of Noah, wants to marry Yonah, this Canaanite woman that they introduce. She's not in the Bible, but they introduce her as the major character in the second half of the play. He wants to marry her, and he brings her on the ark. Well, in the play, not in the Bible, but in the play, God has said it's not allowed for them to marry a Canaanite, from the line of Cain. And so the climax, the happy climax of the play is that Noah decides to disobey God and marry the two young people because human love relationships are the most important thing in the universe. Now, this is what we see everywhere in our culture today. It's the religion of our culture that, human love relationships are the most important thing in the universe. You have to be able to sleep with who you want to sleep with, and otherwise life has no meaning, basically. And it's the highest good. This is a religion. This is a false religion, based on sexual immorality. Of course, it's been around forever. It's been going on forever, but it's so much part of the warp and woof of our culture today. And this is what's being promoted by this play. This is a repeated theme throughout the whole play, that human love relationships are the most important thing in the earth, certainly more important than God, than what he wants. Adam and Eve earlier are God's depicted as an ogre, basically, who makes Adam have to choose between God and Eve. And so Adam heroically chooses Eve instead of God. So this message is clearly humanistic, and therefore it is satanic. Meaning it's from Satan, the father of lies. He inspired this play, everything that was added, everything that was changed, because he makes it entirely opposite of what God actually says in the Bible. So if that's not satanic, I don't know what is. It's satanic. And even another example, there's this thing called the spark of creation that they keep referring to throughout the play. Well, the spark of creation that's celebrated in the play is really essentially the sinful nature that we have because of Adam and Eve's sin. But they celebrate it as this is a wonderful thing, the spark of creation that makes us long for something different than what God has told us to do, that makes us step out and live our own free will and enjoy our free love, and apart from God's restrictive, ogre-like limitations. So even the spark of creation, which the girls were just singing the song, spark of creation, is evil, the way that it's depicted in the play. One more example. This one would be funny if it wasn't so sad, but one of the only songs or parts of the play that's not problematic is this one song called "The Generations of Adam." Generations of Adam, and it goes through the names of the people that come from Adam, all the way down to Noah. And it's real catchy, fun song. But the one part that sticks in your head more than any, and that the girls have been singing over and over again, is this one line where it says, "Oh Noah, you go all the way back to the protozoa. Oh Noah, you go all the way back to the protozoa." And that's the line that more than anything sticks in everybody's mind. The rest of the song's okay, it's fine, it's just the generations of Adam. But the one that sticks in everybody's mind and they sing all the time because it's so catchy is that Noah goes all the way back to the protozoa. So it's promoting evolution in the middle of a song, that really, that's one of the greatest evidences for the creation view, the non-evolutionary view of Genesis 1 to 11, because of the generations, how it lists, Adam and so forth, all the way to Noah. So that's one of the evidences for why you would believe in a young earth and so forth. If you believe that's an evidence for it. But by adding that line in about evolution, Noah all the way back to the protozoa, well, it makes it about evolution more than about how God, ordered the generations. Anyway, to put this directly from the Bible, because I do want to open the Bible here, Ephesians 5:11 says this: "Do not participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but instead even expose them." Do not participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness. And they're especially linked in the text to immorality, sexual immorality. Go back up verse 3, "But immorality or any impurity must not even be named among you, as is proper among saints." Verse 4, "For this you know with certainty that no immoral or impure person has an inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these things the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore do not be partakers with them. For you were formerly darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the light consists in all goodness and righteousness and truth, trying to learn what is pleasing to the Lord." And then the verse I read, "Do not participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but instead even expose them." So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to follow what God says to do, to expose the unfruitful deeds of darkness, because that's what this play is depicting and promoting, is the unfruitful deeds of darkness, not the true message of Genesis 1 through 11, by any means. And then he also adds, he says, but all things become visible when they are exposed by the light. I'm trying to, in the light here, bring some light to this so we can see what God thinks about the content of this play. For this reason, it says, "Wake, sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Therefore, be careful how you walk, not as unwise men, but as wise, making the most of your time, because the days are evil. So then, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." So we have to be discerning and apply what the Scripture says to these things we see in the popular arts and entertainment. And it says, we should not participate in it. So I know that when my children grow older, they, will decide what they want to participate in. But at this point, I need to decide what our family is going to participate in. And I made a mistake. We should not have participated in this musical play filled with so much error and blasphemy, really, satanic worldview and beliefs all throughout it. And of course, I only gave you a few examples. We could go through the whole play and just point by point, again, show how, like I said, almost everything that they added, which was more than half of the play, well, more than half was added, almost everything added or changed makes the opposite point of God's truth. So this leads me to the more general regret I have with my children. 5 of them are out of the home now. I have a system of principles that I put in my book, Who Are You to Judge? You can take a look at that. There's an appendix at the end about entertainment and the popular arts, how to evaluate them and know whether you should participate in particular movies or TV or music or whatever. And so I have this whole system of principles, and I try to apply it in my life, and I try to teach it to my kids. But what I realized is that children aren't going to have that kind of discernment, and they don't have the ability to resist the almost irresistible power of entertainment and modern media. So they actually need to be sheltered from it. And sheltered, has gotten like a bad connotation for some reason, but to shelter your children is actually a good thing. Sheltering is a good thing because it means to protect them from things that they're not yet equipped to be exposed to and to be immersed in. And then these things that are evil become a part of them and then affect the way they view the world. And it's just, again, such a power to entertainment and the popular arts, modern media, that it's so powerful that we have to be just so careful, especially with children, with all of us, really. We all have to be careful about. Now, I did that. I tried to shelter them definitely in various ways, all my kids. But what I'm realizing and what I do regret is that I think because I wanted to watch movies rather than read to them or play games, I spent too much time in front of the screen with them. And I've carelessly created interest in the things of the world. And make no mistake, what comes out of Hollywood, so to speak, the visual media is the things of the world. No question about it. Under the power of Satan, intended to turn people away and keep people away from Jesus. 1 John 2:15-17 says, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. For the things that are in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life are not from the Father, but are from the world. And if you love the world, then the love of the Father is not in you." James chapter 3 says, if you make yourself a friend of the world, you become an enemy of God. So we have to understand what the world is and what these people are trying to communicate and trying to indoctrinate us in, especially our kids. And we've got to separate from the world. I mean, that's an old doctrine, but it's really true. Come out from among them and be separate. The Bible talks about you got to separate from it. You got to not be immersed in it because it's very powerful and therefore very dangerous. And I wish I would have more, by the way, it's interesting, the etymology of the words amusement and entertainment. I don't know if you know this or not, but amusement, it actually means no thinking. Amuse, no thinking. So that's the opposite of what we should be doing when we're exposed to things that are created by the world, with Satan as the prince of the power of the air, as the god of this world, and unbelievers are making this art, uh, we should be thinking the whole time, thinking very carefully about it, and talking back to our TV and talking back to our music. Otherwise, it'll become a part of us, and it will affect us negatively and draw us away from the Lord, or keep us away from the Lord. And by the way, the word entertainment, interestingly, the etymology of the word entertainment goes back to French, and it's when you entertain someone else. So it's a word for hospitality. So you have people in your home and you kept them happy, is the etymology of the word. So it was actually focused on others, not ourselves. But now entertainment has become, the whole meaning of it is entertaining me, entertaining myself. And so even the etymology of the words raises serious red flags that we should be aware of. I'll give you one more example that just happened just in the last few days. There's this movie, Cabin in the Woods, made by Joss Whedon. And years ago, I bought a edited version of it, which I have a lot of edited versions of movies because I'm interested in what happens in the movies, but I don't want to watch all the swearing and nudity and ultra violence or whatever. So I get these edited versions. So I had an edited version of this movie because I just wanted to see. I heard it had a interesting twist, and I wanted to see what the twist was. And I was driving in the car with my kids, who knows how long ago, 6 months, a year, or whatever. And they asked me about this movie because they had heard about it from their friends, Cabin in the Woods. Could we watch it or whatever? And so apparently they've told me this recently in our discussions that I'm going to mention. But apparently I said something like, well, I have an edited version of it. Maybe you could watch it with me. And I said, but I don't want to give anything away because it has this twist in it. So little did I know that I just found out recently, this talk about this movie with my two daughters made them really interested in wanting to see the movie. And ever since then, they've been dying to see this movie. So recently, when we had some time, we were going to watch something. They said, Cabin in the Woods. Can we watch Cabin in the Woods? We want to watch Cabin in the Woods. And they ended up begging me and begging me and begging me, fixated on watching Cabin in the Woods. But when I actually came down to thinking of putting it on, I realized there is no redeeming value whatsoever in this movie. I mean, even the quote-unquote heroes are not truly heroic in any way. They're not good examples for anybody, let alone kids. And there's just no redeeming value in the movie. And so making the most of your time, you heard Ephesians 5, make the most of your time because the days are evil. We should if we're going to watch something, we should watch something with some kind of redeeming value in it, rather than just what might be entertaining or amusing. And that's what they said, but it's entertaining, it's amusing, it's entertaining. And I just realized, man, I should have been more careful. I just off the top of my head talked about this movie, and then I realized, and then it created this interest in them. And I wish that wouldn't happen. I should have just told them there's no redeeming value in that movie. Forget it. Forget about it. So, this kind of regret that I have, that I wish I would have done a better job. So what am I going to do now? How am I going to try to address this problem, both specifically with the play and then generally, that I feel like that I failed in various ways as a dad? Well, first of all, I'm going to preach the gospel to myself. I'm going to remember the gospel, count myself as dead to sin, Romans 6:11, but alive to God in Christ Jesus. I'm going to thank Jesus that he died for all my sins, all my failures, and he loves me just as much, no matter how bad of a failure I am. And he rose from the dead, so I can actually change. I can change. I can learn some things, and be a better father in the future. And I hope that, again, I know that people in the family won't agree with me. So you'll say, oh, we don't need to forgive you, Dad, because we don't even agree with you. Whatever. But if you do realize that I wasn't as good of a dad as I should have been, I do ask that you would forgive me, please, because I believe I need forgiveness for not doing a better job. I'm going to discuss this with my wife and with other people, and to say, how could we do it differently? And what could we do even, specifically about this play, Children of Eden? Because like I said, they're still walking around singing these songs, Spark of Creation, which is really a demonic idea in that play. And so I don't think we should continue to participate in it with our family. So I'm going to have to talk with my wife, talk with others to get counsel and say how to address that issue of the specific play, the specific movies that they ask to watch, but then also generally, how can we do a better job in using our time wisely because the days are evil. So maybe I had the thought we would read or do something else half the time. Half the time that we would normally watch something on the television, try to spend half the time reading or doing something else. And then I definitely need to pray about my heart and actions. And talk further with my daughters about the play specifically and about these ideas. But definitely pray about my heart. It's so key. It starts in the heart, because see, if I love the things of the world too much, then of course my kids are. There's an old saying, where you walk, your children will run. And I've seen that happen, unfortunately, where, I'm too into entertainment, for instance, and then of course they end up becoming too into it. And speaking of my heart, I've actually become much less enamored with movies and TV recently. I've noticed that it's like when we sit down and think about watching something, so many things I think, they're really a waste of time. There's so much better things to do in life. And I used to just really love to watch TV and movies, but I've much less now. Do I look forward to that? And do I even really want to do that? I'd rather stick on like my a basketball game or something, on a sport thing on the TV, and do some work while it's playing. When I'm downstairs like that. But of course, the kids don't want to do that, so I have to do something with the kids. But I just am less eager to sit and watch a movie, especially with them, because I know the bad effect it might have on them. And just a thought for you, I don't know how much this has affected me, or whether I just think that it supports my cooling off when it comes to movies and TV. But there's some stuff online on YouTube that really points out how stupid so much of the stuff is. Have you ever seen the pitch meetings? Look it up on YouTube, pitch meeting for various movies. It's a guy that does this back and forth thing with himself as two different characters, the person who's making the pitch and the producer who's deciding to make the movie. And it just shows you how stupid so much of these movies and TV are, by pointing out all the inconsistencies in them and all the plot holes. And it kind of makes you realize, we're so enamored with this stuff. We just think it's so great to be like a Hollywood star, or to be in movies or other arts. But, it's just really not, it's not that great at all. And then there's Weird Al Yankovic, who had a movie made about him recently. He has these interviews with these famous people, and you can find them on YouTube too. And I had the same effect on me when I watched some of those interviews. It's like, these people are really, a lot of them are really cuckoo, really weird people. And he kind of points that out. He kind of shows that. And they're not the kind of people that you want to be spending time with at all. Proverbs says a companion of fools will suffer harm. And there's so much foolishness in the entertainment and the popular arts. So we do well to, read more books, to, listen to music that talks about important things, and not just do mindless stuff because it's popular. Oh man, that's like the worst reason to do anything. Anyway, there's so many more things I could say, but I've said what I wanted to. The most important thing is just that I believe I failed as a parent and head of the household on this particular play, and I want to just try to make that right, and at the very least say that I think we should not have participated in it, and we shouldn't participate in it going forward. And maybe this will help somebody out there to know more what that's about and make decisions for your family. But especially, I hope the idea of entertainment and the popular arts and their power that they have, especially over children, and just being careful, examine everything carefully. Avoid that which is evil, hold fast that which is good, 1 Thessalonians 5. That those principles, that one and more from Scripture, like I have in my book, I'll put a link below in the description to my book. You can read that chapter there with biblical principles to apply to entertainment and the popular arts. And I hope that we will all become more discerning and more careful and more separated, holy. Holiness means to be set apart and not thinking the way that the world does and not just living the way they do and valuing what they do. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, which fill these movies and TV and music. We got to be set apart. We got to take a different approach as Christians. And it's because Jesus died for us, right? That's why we would want to be different, because he set us apart by dying for us and rising again to give us new life. And that's the love of Christ controls us, that we would want to be holy because he is holy. We would want to be different because he loved us so much. Thank you for listening.